Daybreak Africa on television, Nigeria. It's a magazine program, a weekly magazine program where we bring you trending stories from sports to entertainment to politics, economics, etc. But you'll notice that lately we bring you a lot of stories that is related to politics because 2023 is around the corner. We're in a political era. My name is Elizabeth Samsedi. My colleague is here with me this morning, Kisha.
Good morning, Lizzie.
Good morning, Kisha. How are you doing this morning?
I'm okay, doing so well. Managing, smiling. Yeah,
managing? You don't look like somebody that is managing.
It's not written. It's not written on my face.
Okay.
It's not written on my face, so I just have to be. Good morning, viewers, and thanks for joining us on our program.
Thanks for being with us today. Today we shall be discussing democracy and the rule of law. One of the principles of good governance is the rule of law in a democratic state. Under rule of law, the people, the citizens, are meant to choose their leaders, and the governments in question are meant to obey, follow the rule of law, and not stopping at following the rule of law. They are meant to encourage the citizens to respect that same rule of law. When we talk democracy, we cannot talk democracy without the rule of law. Okay, good governance is strengthened by the rule of law in every society. This is going to be our line of discussion this morning, and we are going to be looking at Nigeria. Nigeria is going to be our case study. How has the rule of law been applicable? How well has it been applicable to the citizens, to the government itself, to our leaders? First, we are going to take a look at trending news this morning, but we have a very a gentleman with us in the studio this morning that will join in this discussion today. His name is Ohi Onibe. Ohi Onibe is a lawyer and a public analyst. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Keisha and Elizabeth. Good morning, viewers.
Thanks for being with us again today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so like I said, we shall be looking at the trending news for today, and then Keisha, a lot of trending news on today, the 16th of November. The one that strikes me the most is the campaign, the kickoff of the campaign of the APC that held just yesterday, and it's written that over 30 private jets were there. So we are talking that things are hard in Nigeria. We are talking that there is no money, and we have 30 jets. You know what that means, right?
Lisbeth, you're not in Nigeria. You are not in Nigeria. The Nigeria we're talking about that took 30 private jets to the north for the campaign is different from the Nigeria where others live.
Oh, how do you mean?
The Nigeria where people are dying, the Nigeria where there's no food, so much inflation, the Nigeria where there's no fuel, the Nigeria where the leaders don't owe anybody explanation is different from the Nigerians that went to the north with the private jet. That's what I'm just looking at. Because let me take you back. I'm not really happy this morning. And you know about Cross River State.
Yeah.
Cross River State has 18 local government coming all the way from the Obudu, Obanliko, back to Ogoja, and the rest, then get to back to Calabar. Yesterday, about 3 p.m., these headers, Fulani men, blocked the highway.
3 p.m.?
Yeah, 3 p.m. Came out from the forest, blocked the highway, adopted 9 passengers, and if I want to shock you, I look back a few months back. There was something the governor of the state, I'm talking about Ayade. Yeah, there was something he said that really got so many persons that stopped. You know, he was in PDP. And today, this was the report he gave. I won't sign the draconian anti-open grazing law because headers are my brothers. That was what Ayade said. Now, today, this is where we are. You know, Nigerians are becoming like a slave who smiles right with the chains. Your hands and your legs are on chains, you can't do anything, yet you smile. That is where we are. That is where Nigerians are.
Okay, that anti-grazing law, is this a bill, or is it been made officially a law yet in Nigeria?
In some countries like Benue, like Ondo, Ekiti states, a couple of other states,
Okay.
It has been passed into law.
Oh.
They are laws.
Right.
They're not bills. Bills are proposals that are supposed to go through the legislative process for
Yes.
adoption and debate before it is enacted. So certain states have adopted it. I think Benue State led the trail in that regard, and Ondo State with Governor Akeredolu and Ekiti State followed suit. Maybe Bayelsa, Delta states have also passed those bills, so they have those anti-open grazing law. And it is proper to have these laws given what we see going on with these herders.
Yes.
If humans have freedom of movement, freedom of association as fundamental rights,
Right, yeah.
it doesn't mean that cattle have
same.
freedom of movement, freedom of association. I do not want to interact with cattle. I am not an animal. If certain people are animals and believe that animals should be accorded equal rights with them, I don't want that in my society.
Right.
I don't want that in my community. If I want to stop at the traffic light or at the zebra crossing for humans, it doesn't mean that I feel happy to be bothered with cows crossing right in the central business district of Abuja, where I currently live.
Right.
It happens every day, and it is supposed to be the duty of the government through its law enforcement agencies to see that this menace stops. They use cattle as a decoy to kidnap people. You're traveling. The greatest fear I have when I'm on the road is to be on the road and see a herd of cattle crossing. Instinctively, something in me tells me I'm about to be kidnapped, because the people who herd these cattle are mostly the kidnappers that everybody is looking for. And they turn these cattle on the road to cause you to slow down or stop. And then they come out and pick people and take them into the bush to be raped, to have their organs harvested, to demand for ransoms for the people they think can pay.
Yes.
What kind of country runs like this? You know, Lizzie, just like what Barrister is saying, yesterday was 15th, right? In Delta State, there was a report where the police, arrested one young herder who took them to where one of the victims was killed. Now, they adopted 3 people. Now, when they were asking this guy, how did you get to this point? He said one of the herders actually invited him that they should get into the business. So they brought the cows and stopped the vehicles, 2 vehicles. They took this guy and these 2 elderly people with them to the forest. And when this guy was communicating with them and said, okay, please let me go, don't kill me, there was authentication that resulted into killing this guy right there in the forest. So he explained all this step by step. All the 3 guys, they were cattle rearers. They trained cattle and they live with the people in the community. Now, the thing is, why should we place priority? The constitution we made gave a right to life, not for animals, but for humans. This is just like what the president is saying, the barrister is saying here. is heartbreaking. So until Nigerians, until Africa, until we speak up as people, the media, the journalists, everyone speak out, it won't stop. It's not about to stop.
Right.
It's not about to stop. You look at the Cross River State like we were talking about. Okay, what is the government going to do? The ransom will be paid. Who is going to pay the ransom? The families of these victims.
Yes.
So how well are the families? So we saw the video is actually trending. Yesterday I had to put calls through to some of the eyewitnesses. They spoke with so much anger, with so much disappointment regarding what the state is all about.
And funny enough, this goes on in every part of the country on a daily basis.
These are some of the news that get to us anyway.
Exactly. So coming back,
deliberate
Okay.
strategy here. What I've seen is Nigeria, there are two Nigerias. One for the conquerors and one for the conquered people. There is an open bid. We're looking at it, but people are not asking the right questions. So they're not getting the right feedback.
Right.
Who are these herders? The north of Nigeria is 4 times the size of the south. If land is an issue, if land is what they need, the land is up in the north. The cattle rearers are northerners, not southerners.
right.
And if they have all of these land in the north, what do they really want in the south? Why is the government not doing anything to stop these people? The law enforcement agents have roadblocks, and it's time they start turning back vans that carry cattle and humans under these cattle. These days, there are actually more humans in those trucks that convey cattle than the cattle themselves. They go to the forest of the south. They never come back. They go armed. Are they preparing for something more than what we think? What's the agenda? Why is the government quiet?
And
why are these people not getting prosecuted when they are arrested?
Exactly, Kisha, what we were talking about yesterday, that a certain ethnic group, when you call terrorists and you mention them, and the people from that part of the country will frown at it, that
That's right.
There are criminals in every tribe, that why are they being tagged? Why are their people being tagged? And another thing is that they will tell you that these people are not Nigerians. Even the government will tell you that they are not Nigerians, and I don't know how a government of a people can utter such words and they are comfortable with it. Okay, they are not Nigerians. Is that right?
From the law that I know, the government can commit treason against its citizen, and that is treason. The president is the chief security officer,
Right.
and Nigerians are getting killed. Is the best response to that circumstance for the government to say, well, the people who are killing, these particular Fulani people who are committing these murders, mass murders, not just murder, mass murders, adoption, rape of your citizens, they are not Nigerian Fulani. So what are you doing about it?
Exactly.
Where are the immigration people you have at the border post to stop these kinds of invasion? I am a southerner. I feel violated. I feel angry. I feel that my space is getting invaded by people I don't know. I feel the government is actively conniving and aiding these people to come at my space, to encroach on my land, to take over my forest, and make it impossible for my people to be able to go do the farming, which is their daily business.
Yes.
Just like cattle rearing is other people's business.
Exactly.
So how do we balance this? What is the government doing? We have an existential threat. It's why I, for one, am so pessimistic about this 2023 election. I do not feel that election is what we should be doing in the face of this existential threat.
Right.
what role would these terrorists that have invaded our space play in this election? How are we sure when people go out to queue up in a bid to vote that terror will not strike?
Okay, coming back to our headline about the 30 jets that were flown into just yesterday. Yes. So, just like we have analyzed, all of this they happen on a daily basis. The people are not safe. The people are hungry. The roads are not safe. The travelers on those roads, you can see that they don't even use the roads. They don't travel. They jet in and jet out. So what's your take on this? And these are supposedly incoming leaders, supposed, that are campaigning for election, and this is what they display. Who is responsible? Who paid for those jets? Some of them are private, some of them were commercial.
The question is, you also ask, how many of these politicians that without Nigerian money can buy the jets?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, your take on this?
There's a dual country in Nigeria. There is the Nigeria for the politicians, and there is the Nigerian for the governed. The politicians do not feel the heat and the economic crunch. There's a recession, pure and simple. The economy is refusing to pick up. They keep talking about COVID-19 as a defense. And they keep borrowing needless money to spend on frivolities, to loot, and loot from the Abacha era, and all of those get returned, only to be relooted. In the EFCC, there is the anti-corruption czar, would go out there to recover loot and reloot the loot they recover. It's in public domain. So, clearly there are two Nigerias. One for the politicians who have access to the public till, and they dip their hands in it without any check, without any let or hindrance, and take anything they want for themselves. So, they fly. The jets are the new buses. The jets are the new rails. Where are the mass public transport system? They don't care if you have it or if you don't have it. They don't care if the roads are okay or not. They fly. They've become birds. They can afford to buy aviation fuel at whatever price. That is even a problem to the commercial airliners. They're crying about the price of aviation fuel. But the politician doesn't cry about the price or cost of aviation fuel.
Exactly.
So that is what we are. But there's something. You see, people that vote in inept and corrupt politicians are not victims. They are accomplices. And the Nigerians who go out every 4 years to vote, because voting is a phenomenon that happens every 4 years in a democracy. They are all excited. PDP, APC, PDP, APC, all of those. They are the problem. If you don't ask question and you don't know what you're doing, it was Socrates that said, the philosopher, the unexamined life is not worth living. And it's worse so, an unexamined country. And even the religion we practice, if you haven't asked questions on why you do the things you do, you're not less than an animal.
True.
And that is the problem. We can't hold those people accountable because of the Constitution. I don't have a national identity number. I don't have a national social identity number. I don't have a card that identifies me as a Nigerian. We do not know how many we are from 1960 till today.
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
And there's no system in place to tell who is actually a Nigerian and who is
And
not.
who is not? How do we differentiate who Nigerians are? Who
And we
non-Nigerians
think
are?
that the next thing to go do is politicking. Again, where did this plains land? In Plateau State. Plateau State that has been in the center of an ethnic cleansing pogrom for so long that the government always disappears when invaders come to hack people to dirt. Mass murders getting committed on a daily basis on the Plateau. And that's where you go to flag off the campaign.
Yeah, they claim that the Plateau is a central Nigeria, so they pick it up from there.
So
and,
the people now matter because you need their vote.
Absolutely.
But when the people are getting massacred,
nobody cares.
In fact, the president, I remember clearly said to them, look, the people who are killing you are not the Fulanis you know. These are foreign Fulanis. But you need to learn to live with them. You need to learn to tolerate them. President Buhari said that.
Yeah, I remember that statement. I remember that statement very well.
And now you suddenly remember they exist. I can't recall if the president ever deemed it fit to visit Plateau State in the midst of all of their challenges.
I can't remember.
And I don't think so.
I can't remember.
I've not seen the
But
president.
suddenly the president is fit enough, healthy enough,
Oh my
strong
goodness.
enough
Okay.
to go to campaign in
There are
Plateau.
these two statements I need your comments on. Nigeria won't sink under my watch. That's Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his campaign yesterday, message, and he said 2023's fight to define Nigerian soul. What does that mean? That's Tinubu talking. 2023's fight to define Nigerian soul.
Tinubu, for one, suffers from amnesia. He's old. He doesn't know how old he is, but he's really older than he believes he is from
right?
the eyes of observers.
But is it really possible that we wouldn't know how old exactly we are? or what we
Tinubu, if he
claim?
really cares to know, is wealthy enough to go do the test to know from his bone marrow. They will extract material and analyze how old he is.
He is.
If he wants to know. In case Mr. Tinubu doesn't know, it's possible to do that. That's for free. You can go talk to your doctor. They'll tell you what to do if you want to know how old you are. But you're really older than you have told me you are. And yes, he suffers from amnesia.
Yeah.
It's clear. So Nigeria won't sink under my watch. Excuse me. Is Nigeria the country of the politicians or the country of the people? In the law that I know, the politicians are not masters of the people. They are the servants of the people.
True.
So, if the people, for instance, feel that Nigeria, staying in this contraption called Nigeria, that wasn't negotiated by them or their forefathers, is not in their best interest, that it will serve a better purpose, that they, create either a new country or several other countries. It's doable. It happens every day in the world. Would one man's interest supersede that of the 260 million other people? That's the new statistics from the United Nations Population Commission says Nigeria has grown to 260 million people. I don't know how they computed that, how they got the figures and the facts and the statistics they put together, and they say the world population has hit 8 billion mark now. And the 5 fastest growing population in the world are in Africa. I remember Nigeria, of course.
Yeah, Nigeria.
I remember Egypt. I remember Congo. I remember Tanzania. These are some of the poorest countries in the world. Well, I don't know why it is with Egypt. I've been to Egypt, not a fantastic country. any country that you have population growing uncontrollably cannot be wealthy, cannot be organized, cannot be tidy. It shows in the tardiness of the people. I remember driving over like a dead cat on the streets of Cairo and over food thrown on the street. Populations too much, you can't manage them. The same thing here in Nigeria. We grow humans, and I have heard the argument that, oh, big countries and big population are better than little country. Excuse me, I'll ask you a question. Elizabeth, would you rather be a Swiss citizen in that little Switzerland that is smaller than half the size of Abuja and be a proud Swiss citizen, or be a Nigerian with a big country with big population?
You already know the answer. I'm sure Kisha knows the answer also.
Yeah, we should.
So what is the answer?
Kisha, what's the answer?
Well, I choose to be where I'm first of all recognized as a citizen,
right?
Where I know my next door neighbor, where I need to understand, okay, this is my leader, and my leader also knows that, okay, this is I have so and so person in the country, where they take responsibility and know that, okay, where life matters, right. And they think humanity, not just politics. I think these are the countries that we should look out for, and we should also pray for. You know, when you mention something about some of these countries, fastest growing countries, one of the things I also saw in Nigeria is that we never take advantage of the population we have. We always have this idea of it's as a result of the population that things are really the way they are. I'm just thinking that when you have a leadership, you have a leadership that don't think to take advantage of anything. You always live at that level without accomplishing anything. For example, you have a leader who doesn't think about productivity, who doesn't think about policies implementation, who doesn't think about asking questions, because they believe that, okay, because I'm a leader now, I know everything, even when they don't show it in their attitude. Barrister, the other day we had a talk here when I was saying that enough is enough. We should stop calling some of our leaders Your Excellency or Your Honorable member and whatever it is, because that should be seen in their daily or in their activities, in discharging their duties as leaders. And they don't need to tell us they are excellencies or they are honorable. We should say they are, you know.
And the qualities that we don't possess at all.
They don't possess, because what we've seen, there's nothing about honorable in a man who acts like a tout.
Right.
There's nothing excellence about a man who doesn't know the definition of excellency. So,
I agree. I agree 100%. The issue we have here is about human capital development.
right.
I'll explain that with a very little example. You have two families, 4 kids, and another family of 11 kids, and a mother and the father, or maybe three mothers and 1 father plus 11 or 14 other kids. In this family of 4, mother, father, 2 kids, the mother and father gainfully employed and value-adding job,
Right.
and the kids properly educated, because the parents are not stressed. They can afford to pay school fees for 2 kids to get the best of education. That education is called human capital development.
Right.
That's the difference between a trained doctor or lawyer and what my 6-year-old son, I don't know, he grew up obsessed with garbage trucks. He likes them so much. And this day, we're driving out and he saw a human rummaging in the trash bin, picking up scrap metal and some objects of what, one man's dust bin is another person's gold mine.
Yeah.
And pushing away. And he said, he calls me by my name. Is that a human garbage truck? It's talk I haven't ever forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
He was 5, he's 6 now.
Yes.
Human garbage truck, where about 10% of the population are human garbage truck, because that is all they can really do. No skill to do anything. They push wheelbarrows, they cut nails for a living, and they have 4 wives, 5 wives. They just haberdasher. No. What do you do with that kind of a population? And this is a country that has made it a taboo to talk about population control. China, back in the days, you would better have rats than have Chinese people come around you. Nobody wanted them. They were poor. China suffered, if you read their history, terribly, until about the late 70s. They started to think in the direction of human capital development, science, education, technology.
And look at what they are today.
If you take a look back, if you want to know how China was in the 70s, go to see any of the Bruce Lee movies and see Shanghai.
Right.
And see Beijing.
You could say that. Yeah.
Compared to what you see today in China. From the 70s till today, Nigeria was well off, better than China.
China as of then, yeah.
But look at China and look at where we are. Look at the kind of population the Chinese people have, and look at the population we have today. And you have a government who would go knee on ground, cap in hand, begging, oh, please come invest in mineral resources. You will own the quarry 100%. All of the quarry business in Nigeria is now in the hands of the Chinese. They do it either criminally or legally or otherwise. Do you know quarry business is gold mine? If you ask yourself, if we think we're running a country, did God put those rocks there for the benefit of the inhabitants of the land? Or did God put those rocks there for the benefit of foreigners? What do you need to quarry a rock? Nobody's saying invent it. Do we have students that graduate from the university every year who studied mining and geology, who can take care of quarry business? Yes. So why are we not doing it? The government won't fund them. Right. One of the first major transaction I had after I left law school was the first quarry. There was a Julius Berger quarry in Pape. The second one was this Chinese one on the airport road.
All right.
Okay, very quickly, I would like us to touch on this trending news between Peter Obi and the Anambra State governor. Soludo. So, Kisha, what's your take on it?
Well, I'm not speaking. I don't have any opinion on that.
Do you think Soludo's counsel here to Peter Obi to like go rest?
Is that a council?
What?
If it's a council, then it's not a good council.
Okay.
You know, when you have someone like Soludo, you know, the guy actually had a lot of people, you know, backing him and saying, okay, they love his personality and the rest. Yeah, so at this point in time, you get to hear things like, okay, this is not the time for Peter Obi to shine. And of course, 3 days back, he also set up a committee to investigate Peter Obi administration. So what is he actually looking for? We talked about his speech and fake news yesterday.
Yes.
Where are we getting our fellowship, our supporters? What are we driving into them? What are we telling them? Well, he's calling on the Igbos, telling Igbos that, okay, you cannot become the president. Is there any school of presidents where you learn administration? that Peter Obi is not really, he's not a graduate here, so he has no right, and no Igbo person has been to that school to say, okay, you cannot be the president because you've not passed through that school.
And he actually went ahead to advise the Igbos to go choose between
the APC and PDP. How well, is it not PDP that drove the country to this point, and APC took us from where they stopped to where we are? So it's time for us to we're not even thinking about APC or PDP or Labour Party. We are talking about individuals at this time. We listen to your political ideology. We listen to your campaign. We listen to your manifestos. We know that this is a Nigerian. We are not going to say, okay, because we're media people, we have to be neutral. Yeah, it's good to be neutral. But let's get to the fact that if that person get into power, we may not be here as media people. That is what it is like. Okay,
Barrister Ohi, before we go on our short break, I would like to hear your opinion on the Peter Obi and Soludo issue. What's your take on his Peter Obi's response to Soludo? That he is more learned than he is, he's more educated, he's his brother, he's a professor, perhaps where he stopped, he should do better.
That's rational, that's sane. I don't know what drove Chukwuma Soludo to come up with that kind of a write-up or opinion, but he has a right to his opinion, but not a right to his fact, the fact in his own illusion. He doesn't have a right to that. This is election, and people have a right to choose who they want.
Right.
And you're free to campaign for whomever you please.
Sure.
And that's what people should focus on in a democracy. You don't need to pull someone down. It just shows the kind of human he is to my mind. So I will not flog that kind of an issue. It just tells me how petty he is, or vindictive for whatever reasons he has gotten. But clearly, I really don't care about their politicking and the election. We don't, to my mind, election is not what we should be doing. And I think I like the confusion, the lack of composure we're seeing, the confusion amongst them all.
Yeah, we're most likely to see more.
People, it's going to come up. A lot of people say, let's have an interregnum. Let Buhari's administration be a transition one. Let's talk about the issues, the existential threat that is besetting Nigeria as a country. Politicking won't save us. We have had, since 1999 to date, about 6 elections. Who is in APC that was not in PDP?
That's right.
Who is in PDP that wasn't in APC? Yeah. And you know what they say, that many a truth in jest spoken. That was Shakespeare. Right. Yesterday, a key player said PDP, APC.
Right.
They're confused. They don't know where they belong anymore. But that's the truth. There is PDP, APC, ABC, EFG.
That's actually what it is, considering the fact that most of them, there's hardly an APC member that hasn't been a PDP member, and vice versa.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
We're not talking about principles or ideologies. They just want power because they want access to the public loot. Nigeria is a loot. It's just that the loot belongs to the politicians. I'm tired of this whole thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this point, viewers, we're going to go on a short break. Stay tuned. When we come back, we shall be going straight to our topic of discussion for today, which is democracy and the rule of law. Stay tuned.
To productions to clients from all sectors of life. We are experts in program streaming, event coverage, news reporting, adverts, documentaries, personality profiling, skits, and jingles. You can advertise now on Television Nigeria network platforms or sponsor programs like The Patriot, Spectacle, Business Daily, Security Dossier, and other programs. To publicize your business from ground state to the zenith, we have the capacity to introduce, promote and publicize your businesses to increase patronage. We associate with quality to attract clients like you. Television Nigerian is your media solution.
You're welcome back. Thanks for being there. We still have with us in the studio Mr. Onibe, a lawyer and a public analyst. So we're hitting it right now to topic of discussion for the day: democracy and the rule of law. How applicable has this been to Nigeria, Keisha? Tell me, how many Nigerians even know what the rule of law is and its implication on themselves and on our democracy?
In a democratic system, right?
Right.
But before I get to that point, I really like to give a very big kudos to the Liberian president, talking about George Weah, who was a footballer. You know, when I was going through the list of the players in the United States that are coming in to Qatar to play for 2022, I saw his son Timothy Weah, you know, one of the 26 players that will be coming in there.
Okay.
You know, that actually inspired me and, you know, got me thinking. It's really time to let the old men settle down at the background of the system and allow the young people with vision, you know. Let me borrow a word from the good books. I'm not trying to be religious now. You say, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Absolutely.
Where there is no vision, the people perish. That means when you are not good enough to have the vision that is needed at that point in time, if you were sick, you don't have the vision that the book is talking about. If you were not strong enough, let me say, if you can't provide the vision required for the people to move on, then you were not qualified to be. That is just by the way anyway. Get back to the rule of law. I did a survey sometimes. Young people, when you ask them about the rule of law, say, let me borrow the word in their language, who rule of law help? You know, that is their mentality. And if we're going to move on and also...
But for real, who rule of law don't help?
Yeah, you can ask that and
in
feel
Nigeria.
good because in Nigeria, because we're in Nigeria, you can actually ask that.
We're using Nigeria as a case study.
Yeah,
for
you can
ask
that in Nigeria because where we are, the people already took us away from where the law exists to the place where a colony, where an empire exist, where they are the head of these empires, and they don't want Nigerians to understand what the rule of law is. Even though we are having issues with the Constitution, they don't want to even let us know what the fundamental human rights are. And of course, we try as much as possible to speak for.
But are we supposed to wait for the government to let us know what our fundamental human rights
now,
are?
Now, if you know your right, Lizzie, if you know your rights, is one thing. You strive to know what belongs to you.
Yeah.
Now, one thing is to know your right, and another thing is to have the institution in place that enforce delivery of your rights to you.
Defends your rights.
Right.
Good. So if you have that,
thank God we have a barrister.
Good. I'm so glad about that.
Yes.
Defends your rights.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Basic. The question really would be, what is the rule of law?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's simple. You don't need any textbook to define the rule of law. The rule of law means whatever is done has to be done as prescribed by law. The rule of law as against the brute, unpredictable rule that is based on the whims and caprices of the leader. The leader is also governed by law.
Absolutely.
It is by law that the leader is put into office.
Right.
And the law specifies what powers, what functions, duties, privileges the ruler can enjoy. I like to use the word ruler because we're talking about Nigeria.
Yes.
Really, I don't see a leader in Nigeria from its history till today. We haven't. if we had had a leader, we wouldn't be where we are.
True.
But in Nigeria, the very people who ought to set an example for others to follow often are violators of the law. They won't obey court judgments.
Exactly.
They will not obey common customs like the traffic light signals. They run through the green lights or the red light with impunity. It is not far-fetched where that mentality of the Nigerian violating the traffic light, if the police is not there, is. Unless they see, there is going to be immediate sanction, they would maybe obey it. I have had to stop at traffic lights and people behind me are angry.
Yes.
They're cursing at me like, what is wrong with you?
Why did you stop?
Why did you move? Let me get out and go. It's scary to even obey the traffic light. You could get rammed from behind because the person behind you is not even ready. It's not even looking at the light. That is disregard for the law and in the highest order and form. The government does it. The citizens will do it too. And in life, you should rule by example, not rule by word. So, if the president's convoy would not stop by the traffic red light, why would I? I have on occasion also, because some of these politicians, they're not better educated than you are.
No, they are not.
They're not older than you are. And you stop and you see with impunity some politician or some policeman or some military officer just run through and everybody else follows and the traffic warden is confused and there's a traffic jam because nobody wants to wait for anybody. It's annoying. Source for law for the governed should be laws for the people they are governing, for the governors too. Uniformity. What are the three cardinal principles of the rule of law? Equality before the law is number one. There's no separate law for the rulers as opposed to another class of law for the governed.
Yes.
In the eyes of the law, every citizen is equal.
Right.
And you also have equal opportunity for everybody. But that is not the case with Nigeria. To get employed, you need to peddle influence. You need to get a letter. In some organizations, they ask you, who referred you here?
Right.
Do you have a letter to get into the military?
Without such, nobody will even look at you.
And it is the norm here. So the rule of law is really, go to the police station. It's another level of bastardization of the rule of law. They would arrest people without due process. There's a process for effecting arrest. There are reasons to arrest people, and there are laid down procedure. They are almost never followed. The police, for instance, is not supposed to ask you, write your statement. They should and tell you your rights. You have a right to stay silent, but if you wish, you could write a statement. Whatever you say from here on will be used against you.
Let me quickly ask, in Nigeria, do the Nigerian police force read those rights to at the verge of arrest? Do they read?
I've never seen it done.
In the US? Like you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say or you will be used against you.
I've heard that several times, but wrongly applied.
Okay.
Yeah. The same person who is whatever you use, it will be used against you and is shouting, and it's the same person who is asking you write your statement. And they are the same people. Sometimes when you say you don't know what to write, someone is there to help you write, and you pay for the statement. Yeah. We've been there. We try as much as possible to ask questions, and some of these guys, the most annoying part of it, you get to hear like, officer of the law. That's what the police call themselves in Nigeria, officer of the law. How ironical that can be.
They really are. they really are supposed to be.
Yes.
But what we see is always different from what they do.
That's it.
And there is no sanction. You see, by nature, the humans are not good by nature. Humans become good because of the fear of sanction. If I violate if I run through the red light, I would be caught and I will be fined. And if I pay that fine, the salary for the month is not going to be good enough for me. That's what happens in the UK. It's why they obey the speed limits. It's why they won't run through the red light. It's why they will not drive in a disorderly and dangerous way on the road. But here, nobody knows where you live. You don't have an ID number. You don't have an official email that the government knows to send the traffic violation to you. So that is it. And the rule of law is in, again, elections. What are the ethics of politics? Do you have the right to sit down and write some malicious number of pages because you're better educated than the person who is running for office? Is that how better education shows itself? To malign somebody in writing and put it there and judge him. And are you a judge?
Okay, I want
Because you're a professor.
To look at it from this perspective, okay? A democratic state under the rule of law enables its citizens elect. That's without influence, they enable that. You make your choice, your free choice of who you want. Like we are doing right now in Nigeria. 2023, we're about to elect new leaders. So the citizens in Nigeria, what kind of free will do the citizens have to really make this choice of their next leaders? Do they have that free choice, or are they even aware? Do they even have the knowledge that it's their right to make this choice without any influence?
Well, it's always, when you bring up questions like that, sometimes I ask, they are aware that they're supposed to elect their leader, but their leaders don't allow them have the free access to their decisions. That's some of my thoughts anyway. For example, you have
finish your thought. Then I will want Barrister.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking because in my village right now, where you see a very wonderful, I call them wonderful guys. These are guys, when you look at them very well, you don't see future. They are hired by leaders to go around from house to house to educate people on who to vote for. So this is really heartbreaking.
So is the rule of law at play in that, Barrister?
It's for a democracy, the rule of law with relation to the rights of citizens to select and elect their rulers is in multiple layers, depending on the system of government you're practicing, whether parliamentary or presidential, federal presidential, like we practice. The people are coming in the early part of next year to vote.
Yes.
But we mustn't forget the process started through the party primaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what is the selection process? The party delegates who go to vote at these primaries. Did they have the freedom to decide without any undue influence. We know how they lock up certain people in certain hotel.
Yeah.
We knew how it was a dollar contest.
Very well.
Who was going to pay better? I would vote for that person.
Highest bidder.
The highest bidder. So, in that, I would say those delegates probably knew. We also saw how a lot of them were illiterate. They couldn't tell the name of one contestant from the other.
Right.
Are those the best people that ought to be in as party delegates to go, selecting who would be president for every other person would be? So, if you talk about awareness, it's, I would say yes, but it's the due process as specified by the rule book being followed. It is no. Now, at that level of the primaries, the delegates had been bought. The highest bidder had taken the ticket to run for the election under the umbrella of the various parties. Come again to the people. Either ballot boxes will get snatched. Let's hope that with the new electoral act that may not happen. Let's hope.
Yeah, we are hoping actually.
And then people are gearing up now. Oh, who is going to buy them the bag of rice for the Christmas? Who is going to give them the T-shirts that they can't afford to buy? Who is going to give them the cash? Maybe 5,000, 10,000.
You see the state of mentality of the citizens already, just like you're saying. Yeah, most of them are already like, who is going to give me this? It's Christmas, like you rightly stated. They're already waiting for who would come give us this, who would come give us that, to sell their future for a little portion of porridge.
Excuse me, their future. Do they really have a future is a question.
Everybody does have a future, right?
I think that they're driven by the frustration in the system.
That's right.
Oh, if we elect these politicians to go represent us in Abuja, we never see them till the next election. The mentality is whatever I can grab right now that I'm looking at him, let me get this 4,000, this 5,000, some this 500 or this 200 naira from him while I can, because that's all I would ever get. They're unemployed, they're illiterate, and they do whatever they are told to do. They're aware they ought to vote, yes. But do they know why they're supposed to be voting is another question. So if we have a behemoth crowd of uneducated people, uninformed people in the society, this is bound to happen. And the government is using poverty as a tool to keep the people at that level. They're using illiteracy as a weapon to see that the status quo continues. They're not interested in getting the people educated. Where are your university students? They've gone back to school, right? Are they sure they will be in school till the end of the year? They're half leg in and half leg out after having stayed at home for over 6 months.
And I even learned some of the students are joining the ASU, the lecturers, right? The marching protest.
Yeah, protest. And you know, there's something I also discovered a few days back. Sorry, I had to bring this up on set. In University of Calabar, there's one of these lecturers in a department where they have over 155 students. And they were, asked to pay 11,000 naira for each student. And that 11,000 naira, they were going for field trip from Calabar to Wickham and return back that same day. Now, I just punched my calculator to see 11,000 times 155 students, and they are going on field work. These are the same parents that are struggling to live. So if you have 2 students in that department, we are talking about 22,000 naira. How comes at this very point where lectures have not even resumed.
Exactly.
The man is asking for 11,000 naira so they could go for a field trip. And of course, they returned back here. That same year, they went to the place yesterday and returned back. Now, one of the students I was able to reach out to and ask, I say, okay, what reports do you have from there? What can you tell me? He said, after 2 weeks now, I need to put the reports together. That person is going to think of what to write, not what happens, not what is helpful to the student. So this is one of the ways. So some of the lecturers that are, if you are going to see serious lecturers, you see lecturers that will have to be taxing students, and students will have to be taxing their parents, and parents will now be sitting back to ask, we are civil servants. Some of them are farmers. They don't go to farm because of insecurity. So this is where we are. It's really heartbreaking anyway. You talk about look at the situation between the ASU and Gige, the federal government. This is really important. You remember we mentioned this before now. Yeah. We had the student union leader who was here and said he was at speaking for us for the government and Ngige. And up till today, that is not clear. And the leadership of let me say Ngige and federal government, they feel that they don't owe Nigerians the obligation to explain to them that this is the true state of things. We only hear either ASU comes out to say, this is what the federal government is doing, or the federal government will come out and say, ASU, with all authority, say, okay, you have to return back to class. If you don't return, nobody gives you information.
You know that the last meeting they had, ASU had with the government, the speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, had promised them that the president, when he got back to the country, was going to do something, fulfill his parts of the bargain, to ASU. But the president is back now, and we are yet to, and even upon the fact that some of these rallies or protest is going on, and he hasn't said anything. As far as ASU is concerned. It's worrisome, actually. Okay.
The focus is on elections anyway.
Yeah, the focus, that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
Okay, just at this moment, viewers will due for another break. When we get back, we'll continue with our topic of discussion. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere.
Your body bang, 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 your body bang. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm okay when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie Down to Television Nigeria with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bada.
Hurry up.
Your body bang, 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 your body bang. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm okay when you take a selfie, when you take a photo, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie Down to Television Nigeria with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bad.
You're welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. We are still on our discussion on democracy and the rule of law. At this point, Barrister, I would like us to relate to the leaders, the rule of law. How well have they been able to, follow and respect this rule of law as long as far as democracy and their leadership is concerned?
I'm going to, Kisha was analyzing ASU and the strike and the courts giving order to return to court. And I would also use that as a good example of rule of law, so citizens can see how there is disparity between the government obeying court orders and what the government expects of citizens in regards to obedience to court order.
Right.
ASU and the federal government found themselves in court over the protracted strike.
Yes.
And the court in the first instance court says, ASU, before you are heard, go back to court. ASU was dissatisfied and appealed that ruling by the judge. You've not heard this matter. You can't order us to go back to classroom. And the appellate court, which is the court of appeal, says you have to obey the order of the lower court. Go back to class while we hear this case. But I want the citizens to also put this in contradistinction to Nnamdi Kanu against federal government. And Nnamdi Kanu's appealed against his incarceration, not in prison, but in the detention of his prosecutors, which is not normal in law though. And the court says all of the charges before you, because of the extraordinary rendition, common word, kidnapping. The federal government kidnapped him from another country in violation of all international protocol. You cannot get a legal thing through an illegal means.
Right.
Absolutely.
Illegality vitiates any kind of contract between countries, between people, between employers and employees. You cannot prosecute him because of the illegal manner you kidnapped him into the country. So all charges quashed. He's discharged. And the federal government quickly said through the Attorney General, oh no, the court said discharge, but they didn't acquit him. So therefore we will appeal. What the government was supposed to do is obey the order, let that man off.
Right.
Even if you're going to keep an eye on him, if you feel he's going to escape, you can actually vary and say, oh, let's have a conditional release for this and that reason. We want to keep an eye on him because he's a person of interest.
Right.
You can even request the court for maybe a house arrest if the courts would be, they may be wanting to grant that. But you don't keep him and say, I want to appeal. And the appellate court says, obey. You see, they did not obey the order of the court. They went on appeal. But ASU needed to obey the order of the trial court. I am drawing this disparity to let people who are listening, to let viewers know how well the government obeys or disobeys the court, the rule of law and orders of the court in this country. So it's left for the people. Remember, rule of law means equality before the law.
True.
Source for the geese should be source for the gander. There should be no disparity between whether the government should obey or whether private individuals should obey. The same rule that binds the people, private individuals in a country, in a society, binds the government. The government is not over and above the individual. And that is how countries grow.
That's what they are doing. That's what they display, that they are above and they are over. They're above the law.
You know, Lizzie, sorry, before you make an input to that again, I don't know if you have a system like my culture where I come from, where you get to see a counselor being, like a semi-god now to the people from a ward where he's been elected as a counselor. That is where it begins
They're
from.
supposed to reach out.
Yeah, that is where it begins from. The lawyer the counselor goes around with talks, goes around with, now he becomes like, and there is no law in that community or in that word that will subject him to be under it. Rather, he's just up here and the law is down here. And that is where we need to really talk to people. You know these people that you guys are electing from your word as a counselor. How good, how close is this person to the grassroots? And know what to do, because this is where it begins. If you bring in such a person and the person rose to become the councillor, from there to the chairman, is becoming the governor, is becoming senate, you are already separating yourself. The people separate themselves from the government with the kind of leadership they are elected. That's just my point anyway.
You're correct. The people are pleased with the status quo, otherwise they would know what to do.
Right.
Maybe they are happy with the whole system.
What's wrong with the people? Why have they suddenly become this
docile?
Yeah, what's the problem?
Your constitution. That is the problem. Your constitution doesn't allow for a referendum. Your constitution makes the process of recall of, for instance, a lawmaker impossible. It makes a system for impeachment of a governor or a failed president impossible. If they get in there, whether they are good or bad, whether they take ill, become deaf and dumb, and become medical cadavers, they must run through the 4 years. That's the problem. The constitution of Nigeria is so flawed. There's a concept in government called oligarchy.
All right.
It's popularized with the invasion of Russia by Ukraine, where all of the Western world powers started targeting people they call the Russian oligarch.
Yeah.
Russia is not such a prosperous country. Everybody is kind of averagely, because of the communism background, averagely okay, well-planned society. But there are the privileged ones. And you don't become privileged until the president. Putin has been there for almost half my lifetime.
Honestly.
Until Putin selects you to do something, you're just down there, averagely okay. But the oligarchs of Russia are so rich. Nigeria is an institutionalized oligarchy. And the ruling class are the selection process for these oligarchs. And you see someone, street guy, barely educated, through push and shove, through hooliganism, becomes, he said, a councillor, and then a lawmaker in the State House of Assembly becomes a governor. And they become so stupendously rich overnight.
Yes. What
it tells rational people is politics is a business in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's not a... I have President Clinton, when he left power, said he was better off as a lawyer in private practice than he was as a president in the USA, United States of America. He was making more money in private practice than in politics as the president of one of the most prosperous countries in the world. The same thing Obama lamented. And then they come up, they write, and the people know these people have sacrificed for us. They left everything. You know what lawyers earn in the USA? They left it. They came in, contributed, made the people better and made themselves poorer. They write a book, the people launch it, the people purchase it overnight. They make so much money to start off their lives again from where they left it off. But not so the case of Nigeria. So your constitution, I call it a cauldron bubble of chaos, legislated this chaos. It is a police state. There's a federal government that you don't even know what they do. You don't know what business they engage in. They are the owner of all of the mineral wealth in the country, which they have mismanaged. We keep crying about corruption. The Constitution institutionalized the corruption. How do you go to nationalize people's private property?
Right.
What belongs to everybody belongs to nobody. It's prone to be corrupted. It's prone to be mismanaged. Nobody can help you manage your own property better than you can manage it. The problem is not far-fetched. It's right in front of us, but only for the discerning to see. The Constitution needs to be put down. If you bring 10,000 angels, put them in Aso Rock, and if the document they have to work with is this constitution, they will fail. The people are going to keep getting poorer, and the rulers are going to keep getting richer, and the people are going to be powerless because they don't have a sense of belonging. First, you are a citizen of this country, this is your number, and this is how many we are. No. It just nationalized everybody. We are the property of whoever comes in as the federal government.
Yeah.
And increasingly, the weakest ones, the sickest ones, the most illiterate ones are getting to ascend into the presidency. That's whether through terror, through rigging, through whatever, just get the power. What are you coming to do? Nothing.
That's where it's
no idea.
More dangerous, for the country.
So on that note, I should say, I should ask the barrister, how democratic is Nigeria? Because we are discussing the rule of law under the democratic setting.
Yes.
And when we look at this very well, we can ask ourselves, what are the features of democracy in place to ensure that this is democracy in Nigeria? Because we cannot be acting Democrats. We cannot be acting as if we're in a democratic system of governance. We can't even justify the system we are actually running right now.
Exactly.
Because you can't say, okay, if it's democracy, this is what democracy is all about. If it's presidential, this is how it is. So everything is just how democratic is Nigeria.
Yes.
Again,
right.
I will start answering from your constitution. Democratic countries are not just democracies by nomenclature.
Right.
What is democracy? The popular everyday definition.
Right.
Democracy is government by the people, for the people. There's another one.
Yes.
By the people.
Government of the people.
By the
people.
By the people, for the people.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. A lawyer should know what democracy is. That was so unpardonable.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Government
of the
people, by the people,
and
for the people.
Right.
Yeah.
How of the people is the government we have? Where's the connection? Where's the relationship? In the decision-making process of Nigeria, where are the people? There's a fine concept in a democracy called a referendum.
Right.
The referendum is a way for the people to impute what they want. Because you're president not for yourself, like the way we see it done in Nigeria. This will not go because I am the president. How many people's opinion have you put into consideration? What is the process for harvesting people's opinion in this democracy we have? None.
So-called democracy.
None at all. The so-called constitution never went through any kind of plebiscite, wasn't adopted, drawn up by one man. And it is a combination of all of the decrees, the Land Use Act and everything put together, mumbo-jumbo document. So confusing.
It is.
So unnecessarily windy and untidy. The United States Constitution is in less than 16 pages, short paper. And see how well organized that country is. The law is over and above everybody.
That's what it's ought to
But
be.
here, the government is over and above everybody. It has been said that the president of Nigeria is the most powerful man in the world. The only thing that they cannot do is turn a man into a woman. But anything else they can do if they want to. And you cannot question them. They'll shoot you on the street like a mad dog. We saw what happened with the Lekki toll gate. Do you know the saving grace for the everyday Nigerian? The international community and international law. International laws are in existence to help strengthen local laws that are weak and porous. Otherwise, we would all be like animals in an animal farm that the federal government owns. If this is a democracy, the people who come to form a federation, every state ought to have its own constitution, its own laws. So for instance, if I'm a businessman and I don't like the tax system, I don't like certain land acquisition system in the FCT, I'm supposed to research around and think, oh, Niger State is better with the taxation, with their land administration than the FCT. So I better go to Niger State. I think I can do better off as a start off. Then again, the company administration. You have a corporate affairs commission, a nationalized corporate affairs commission. Little wonder companies die. I've been looking at the vice president, who's in charge of the economy. I've been looking at his
as a professor
utterances as a professor. He doesn't really respectfully know what the problems, what the issues are.
Is it that he doesn't know, or he's not
really overwhelmed?
I mean, I don't even know what to say.
He doesn't know. Any country that is set to grow would unbundle that monster they call the Corporate Affairs Commission. My state, Edo State, ought to have its own Corporate Affairs Commission, or call it any name it is supposed to. Or your state is supposed to have its own. Lagos State is supposed to have its own. And with their peculiar circumstances. So, for instance, if Edo State knows we have needs in this area, the state is going to maybe give tax incentive and any other kind of incentive, including access to funding for certain people who can come into that state to do ABC kind of businesses. And they will know how to manage it, partner, create collaborations, but you must first come to Abuja to register.
That's what the people we've been saying, that the central, there's so much on the central, they have too much power.
And then they employ incompetent people who can't spell limited properly, and they register, and then they start telling you come pay money to correct names and stuff. What's the recruitment process?
If these errors are made by them, you have to pay so much to have them amended and corrected.
You know, a few years back, during when one of the man who was the RG Registrar General, talking of Mustafa from Bauchi State, when he was there, this guy was like, okay, he was going to work with every system in place to make sure that the place get better. And when that guy left the office, he's like dragging us back again to where we left years back. For example, you get to see extortion. I call it extortion.
It is.
You get to hear things like annual filing of annual returns. How much do you pay annual returns? You get to hear things like enforcement. And all these things, they are just done not based on the regulations that they even have. And if you look at the regulations as also still empower the same people to have a say a business that is operating in a typical village in Obudu local government in Cross River State would definitely have something to do with Corporate Affairs Commission in Abuja. Not minding the startup capital, how small that is, you just have to find your way. And of course, you can believe some of the accredited lawyers with Corporate Affairs Commission, because they understood the monopolistic nature of transacting with Corporate Affairs Commission. They have to fix their mouth how they want it to be, because you don't have access to the commission rather than going through this accredited agent. So the system is still getting us up the track that we're supposed to be. I love the fact that he said that if it's actually a democratic system of governance, these are the future, these are the things we should have in place. And of course, the popular one we always talk about, the police. You know, when we are talking about these young people, the headers who adopted these 3 persons in Delta State, and I get to hear who is the DPO of the DPO of the police station, a Notner, a called Notner. And these guys, if you see the forest these men were taken to, in fact, you will require the help of the vigilante, the people, the community people, to trace and understand that, okay, these people that are going this way, why are they going this direction today? Why the strangers going this way? Who are they? So I just feel that we need to be democratic enough to really talk about certain things in Nigeria.
Honestly.
It is, the government is in the best interest of the government, the so-called fictional federal government whose impact you don't feel, to keep the system the way it is. Yes, there are no processes. People who protest get shot at on the streets by the military with 9mm caliber ammunition, which is supposed to be used in battle against enemy soldiers.
Invaders, yeah.
You use it to kill your citizens. Thank God for technology. They denied ever getting involved with the Lekki toll gate shooting.
They did.
In a democracy, in a government that is supposed to be accountable to the people. They denied it. But thank God for technology. There is something you call God's eye, or the eye in the sky, depending on what you want. Right. It sees the entire universe at the same time. All they need to do, if any places of particular interest, is to solve the bearings for the longitude and the latitude, and they zoom in, and they would play back and see what happened. And they told us how from a certain barracks, they saw soldiers converge, and how the convoy went to that location, and how the lights went out, and how the AK-47 started shooting right into the crowd. It would have been denied. So it became like Bob Marley's song, oh, I shot the police, I didn't shoot the deputy. Right. Okay, we went there. At first, we didn't go there. Later, when they were faced with facts, well, we went there, but we weren't the ones shooting. It was hoodlums.
We were instructed by a particular person who also came out to say, no, he never asked them to
go.
Yeah.
All of those. Now, the country is a joke in the eyes of the international community. No country runs the way we do here. Not even smaller African countries. Are we perceptive enough to see these things and know what to do as an intelligent set of people? We've been kidnapped by the government. This is not a democracy. This is a pogrom by the government. This is the government's country. It's not the people's country. The people have no way to impute what they want. Their will doesn't matter here. It is the will of the government. It is a government's country. It's why people say, oh, let's have regional referendums. It is haram. You dare not mention that.
That's it. They don't even want to hear that word.
And as a result, you can't stop secessionists from speaking up every time.
So, where do we go from here?
So, INEC offices are getting burned.
Yes.
As a sign of protest, we do not want the election. In a democracy, everybody's opinion matters.
Matters.
What sensible governments do would be throw open these issues in a referendum. A referendum is a simple, open-ended, close-ended question that you can answer with either a yes or no. There's no in-between. Do we want to continue as Nigeria? Yes, no. Then we follow through a series of other.
Are you seeing such a peaceful?
It is possible. It is possible. Now, with the case of Nigeria,
that we see around us, is possible.
There is a process that the Nigeria Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination has been on with the United Nations. There's a department for indigenous people's rights. They've been on this since year 2000. In the millennium, people were thinking of creative ways to either have parties to welcome the new millennium, thinking of, if we haven't forgotten, how computers would go into the bug of the Y2K bug, because the chips of your computer can read from 00 to 99, but it wasn't programmed. And smart people came up with the solution, made a lot of money from all over the world, and the computers can suddenly read transition into the millennium with us. Otherwise, our computers would be dead with the old millennium. We'll be all forced to buy millennium-compliant computers. They solved that problem. But how did we in Nigeria welcome the millennium? Oh, we adopt Sharia law in Zamfara state. So people will be murdered in Kaduna state. And because of that, and the frequency and recurring nature of this, certain experts started the process at the United Nations. It's been at the 22nd year. And we're at the stage of organizing regional referendums. The southwest of Nigeria, the Yoruba people, now a Yoruba nation, enjoys observer status at the United Nations right now.
Wow.
But the government is fighting. The United Nations Indigenous Peoples Department have written to the federal government that, look, certain sections of this country are demanding for referendum to be self-determining. They followed our protocols, and we need a feedback from you. The government sidestepped, kept mute, never responded to that letter. A reminder was written, 2 reminders after the original letter. No response from the Attorney General, who is the legal mouthpiece for the government. They're so cavalier, they don't care. It is their country. But the international community will know what to do. Look, what kind of country pays 900 of its own currency to buy $1? Is that the kind of country you want to keep incubating? Sometimes it's better to undo a thing than to continue. It's better to correct an error than to perpetrate, to keep, carrying on this error. Maybe Nigeria is an error. No thought should be left untouched.
All right, Barrister, let's quickly go on a short break, and when we return from there, we get back and see how we can wrap up on this very segment. But it's really been amazing having you on this very show. And Lisbeth, I'm really thinking what to do next, because I have to let Nigerians understand what they need to know towards 2023 and the kind of system we have in place, and how dubious and how unfriendly this system is, that we really need a change. All right, so we'll be going on a short break. When we return from there, we'll wrap up on this very segment. Don't go away, we'll be back shortly.
Television Nigerian is one of the leading giants in Nigeria's digital broadcasting. We deliver quality productions to clients from all sectors of life. We are experts in program streaming, event coverage, news reporting, adverts, documentaries, personality profiling, skits, and jingles. You can advertise now on Television Nigerian network platforms, or sponsor programs like The Patriot, Spectacle, Business Daily, Security Dossier, and other programs. To publicize your business from ground state to the zenith, we have the capacity to introduce, promote, and publicize your businesses to increase patronage. We associate with quality to attract clients like you. Television Nigerian is your media solution. Television Nigerian is one of the leading giants in Nigeria's digital broadcasting. We deliver quality productions to clients from all sectors of life. We are experts in program streaming, event coverage, news reporting, adverts, documentaries, personality profiling, skits, and jingles. You can advertise now on Television Nigerian network platforms or sponsor programs like The Patriot, Spectacle, Business Daily, Security Dossier, and other programs. To publicize your business from ground state to the zenith, we have the capacity to introduce, promote, and publicize your businesses to increase patronage. We associate with quality to attract clients like you. Television Nigerian is your media solution. Television Nigerian is one of the leading giants in Nigeria's digital broadcasting. We deliver quality productions to clients from all sectors of life. We are experts in program streaming, event coverage, news reporting, adverts.
All right, it's good to have you back on our program, Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. It's been an amazing time. Keisha and Elizabeth have been Oyi and Nwigbe right here on the program, talking about how democratic is Nigeria and the rule of law playing out in the system where we are. And of course, if we've listened to him so well here, we get to understand the difference between the government that we're supposed to have in place, the system of government that's supposed to be playing out, which is a democratic system of government, and what we have in the name of that system. And we talked about it's not just good to continue this way. If we are going to be a country, a Nigeria that we want to be, we must have a constitution that is viable enough to give Nigeria the country of their dream. Right. And I really love this now. Yeah. You know, as we get closer to the wrapping up of the stage, the segment, I really like us to get back behind the scene. We were looking at the flood that actually swept a lot of things. And of course, we also have INEC saying that they have 20 offices in the country affected. We also have a lot of communities displaced by the flood. And we've not heard the federal government boldly saying, okay, this is our responsibility. And of course, a good governance should take responsibility for what is happening to the citizens. Yeah, sure. Yeah, they should. You know, and the other time we get to hear a lot of stories that there was an agreement, there was something that Nigerians, a dam that was meant to be constructed and nothing happened. And up till now, we only heard the federal government coming out to say there was nothing of such like having an agreement with anybody to construct a dam.
But even if there was no agreement with anybody,
right.
Do we know they need a soothsayer at this point in time to tell us what to do?
The 90 days the president gave the Ministry of Water Resources is still counting. And we've not heard anything about that.
That is how it's going to elapse, and we'll not hear anything.
It will fizzle out. It will fizzle out until another bout of water gets. I blame the government of Nigeria. One, Cameroon as a country does not owe us a duty of care to see that the citizens of this country do not get flooded. It is the so-called federal government of Nigeria that owes the citizen a duty of care to see that they stay safe and they're not flooded out by either Lagdo Dam or any other dam. But have we seen the government living up to its responsibility? It just seemed like it was a bunch of toys that water flushed off.
Not human.
They really don't.
It makes me feel like the government is even happy that if the government had its way, it would be happy if the water flushes off all of the people into the ocean. So they would have a free land to roam and graze their cattle and take the oil and do everything they want to do. And it became a question of, is Bayelsa more affected than Zamfara? How heartless, how soulless is that kind of debate? Cameroon in 1977, in a bid to construct that dam, you don't just construct dams, you do what you call environmental impact assessment.
Right.
You do a feasibility study. Is it viable to even put money in that dam? What's the purpose? Is it for irrigation? Is it irrigation and for generating electricity? The researchers, the scientists who did that EIA, the environmental impact assessment, for free baggaged those documents, brought to the government of Nigeria. We want to do this, you have to do this. We've flown over this river and see how it discharged in the tributaries of the river Niger, and how there's a confluence in Kogi State, and we went upstream and saw another dam in Kanji. And in our opinion as experts, Nigeria needs 2 dams. In this location at the Niger, and in this location at the lower Niger. That was on the table with Obasanjo, who handed over that project to Shagari. Shagari was on it until this same Muhammad Buhari struck, and he was reminded, oh, the Shagari government or administration was working on this and that. So it's corruption. Forget about them. We don't want that now. And that's where we are. Every other successive government, not Babangida, not Abacha, not Abdul Salam, not any other one after them, ever revisited that issue. In 2012, there was a major flooding.
Yeah.
My friend from Germany called me and she was asking, like, Ohi, what kind of flood is that? That people now live on top trees inside water. Where are the emergency services people of your country?
Yeah.
Well, she lives in one of the most advanced countries in the world. Emergency services in Nigeria. I'm sorry.
You know, we remember we used to have something like emergency response centers where you have a lot of numbers, phone numbers given to you. You call either a switch off or not reachable, or you get to.
It won't be picked up.
Yeah.
If you get through, if you ever get through, it won't be picked up.
Right.
Now, that was 2012. 10 years after, we have the mother of all flood. I've never seen anything like I saw this year, ever.
Yeah.
And the response of a responsible government is to set up a committee and give them 90 days to do whatever. We know what the issues are.
To come up with a plan, not just to come up with a solution.
We know what the issues are. Now, this is what I mean when I say the people have been kidnapped, and the people, it's working for the government and all the politicians. They're not broke. However broke, however poor, they would borrow to keep earning their salary.
Absolutely.
We've seen countries where the government says, well, we need to readjust half salaries or a quarter salary until this and this
that cannot happen
works.
in Nigeria. They won't allow that to
Elizabeth, it will happen. It will happen in Nigeria. That's what I'm just.
Until the people, unless the people make it happen.
Right.
But the people cannot build the kind of critical mass. They will use the police against them. And the police is supposed to be the people's police. They will use the military against the people if they have to. They would break the people. The only option as an expert I see is for people to say, you know what? Let's hold on with this election. It's not getting us anywhere. We have had 6 elections since 1999 to date. This will be the 7th one if my computation is correct, or the 8th one. Nothing has changed.
Do you think
nothing has gotten better?
Broken enough? Do you think 2023 election is that time that the people will show that brokenness? Have they gotten to that level?
This is the best time. If not now, when? What are we trying to continue? This failed legacy, this failed state that is consuming us, that I can't get in my car and travel to Kefi, that is just less than an hour from here.
Be sure of coming
Anything
back,
can happen before I get there. That you can't go from one town to the next one. It won't matter if you're in the north or if you're in the south or if you're in the west, wherever. That poverty has become a weapon. It's been weaponized again as a tool and being used against the people. that ignorance is also being used as a tool by the so-called government, whose duty it is to educate the people, to put value in them, to develop the human capital of the people, to make them more valuable, more competitive as against other people.
All right, Elizabeth, I think we're really running out of time.
Yeah,
if we can still look at one or two things.
Yes, I would like him to really talk to the people, okay? Use this medium and this opportunity to talk to the people because, well, whether, like you have said, is it the right time? Do they feel it's the right time to make this change that we demand, that we desire so much? Should there be an election? Or should there not be an election? How should they go about it to at least have our country back, to claim Nigeria back? Nigeria is ours, it belongs to each and every one of us. It's not just to the leaders or the government. We all are a part and parcel of we are Nigerians. And nobody will come from off the shores of the country to help us claim this country back.
Impossible.
So please, what's the way? How speak to the people, the electorate, the citizens
that cares to listen anyway.
that care to listen.
Yeah.
Wow. You're making me feel like I'm a pastor right here now. But from the depth of my heart, Nigerians, if you're listening to me, every country ought to be negotiated. Every country belongs to the people. Americans planned America. America is working for them. The Britons planned England. It is working for them. The Germans, the Chinese, the Japanese planned their countries. It is working for them. It is time to think through. Is it enough to just go vote because it's a phenomenon that happens once every 4 years? After the voting, what next? After the voting, will security get better just because you have a change of government? What is the plan? What are these people telling you that makes you feel that they are better than the one who is leaving? And who is new among the whole lot of them? Nobody. It is your country, and you are the one who is going to make it better, not anyone else. Perhaps we should hold on this election. If we vote, we're giving this government, these politicians, time, another 4 years, to carry on how they've always carried on. But if we refrain from going to elections, it's not going to result into any violence. I am a lawyer. I love democracy. I love the rule of law. But insanity has been defined as doing the same thing the same way over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Right.
Think about it, people. Is an election the best and rational thing we should be doing? Or should we first look at the soul of Nigeria that Tinubu spoke about yesterday, about this election being the battle for the soul of Nigeria? I see it as a battle for the soul of his pocket. I see it as a battle for the soul of the pockets of these politicians who want to keep looting the people.
Right.
It's our country.
It is.
Yeah.
The rules is made for man, not man for the rules.
Absolutely.
Please, can we hold on and think about it? I do not think election is the next best thing we should be
do
doing.
with
We should first deal with the existential threat that Nigeria is.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Tisha, is a good place to drop today.
Yeah, it
Stop
is.
it, right?
And I love what Barrister just said now, because if we are just getting ready for elections and we have other Nigerians who are getting ready for mayhem, we have other people who are getting ready for invasion, we have other people
For massacre.
It started up the north when they called, said, okay, Nigerians, speak against this. A lot of people kept quiet because they feel
They
that
felt
okay,
they were
far from it.
Yeah.
And yesterday, and even till this morning, we have a report, just like during the program now, we have a report coming in that the police actually rescued one of the victims of the 9 kidnapped yesterday.
Okay.
Now is getting, we don't know where the who is going to be the next victim will be. Should we wait until it hits your family to speak up that this government is not responsible for her citizen? If it gets to that guy, I should be careful because it may come around me. So I feel that, yeah, we can actually draw the curtain for today.
Yeah, thank you. We want to thank Ohi Onigbe.
Unknowingly.
Pardon
Don't
me.
murder my name.
I beg your pardon. Thank you. He's a lawyer and a public analyst. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for
you,
having
Keisha.
me.
It's been an awesome time here in the studio. We want to thank our viewers. Thank you for being there, and we hope that you've been able to at least listen to the counsel of the barrister this morning. All the citizens of Nigeria to make the right choice or decide if now is the appropriate time to claim Nigeria back as our own. My name is Elizabeth Samsedi from all of us here in the studio. Kisha.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, viewers.
See you next time.